The Galactic Council chamber was a marvel of crystalline architecture, a spiraling expanse of shimmering light that refracted through the walls like an eternal aurora. To Marcus Blackwood, Earth's representative, it felt more like sitting inside a kaleidoscope designed to intimidate the lesser species. The other delegates, their alien forms a dizzying mix of tentacles, light, and gas, cast disdainful glances in his direction, their contempt subtle but deliberate. "Commander Blackwood," intoned the High Chancellor, a being composed entirely of shifting light, "Earth has been granted observer status in this emergency session. We trust your contributions will remain appropriate." Marcus smirked, leaning back in his seat. "Appropriate is my middle name, right after stubborn and inconvenient." A ripple of annoyance passed through the chamber. Let them be annoyed, Marcus thought. The galaxy's most advanced civilizations had gathered here to solve a crisis they couldn't even contain, and they were treating humanity like the kid who wandered into the adult table at Thanksgiving. The emergency was as dire as it was incomprehensible. A quantum anomaly, a rift in the fabric of space-time, had appeared in the Carina sector. At first it was dismissed as a minor fluctuation, but within weeks it had grown into a catastrophic force. Entire star systems were vanishing into its chaotic maw, their energy fueling its expansion. The High Chancellor gestured to a swirling hologram at the center of the chamber. It displayed the anomaly, an ever-shifting mass of impossible colors and distorted dimensions. "Our finest minds have determined that the anomaly's growth is accelerating. If left unchecked, it will consume the Proxima Centaur system within 72 hours. Murmurs of concern filled the chamber, but Marcus noticed that most of the delegates seemed more concerned about their reputations than the crisis itself. Leto, Marcus's AI companion, chimed in through his earpiece. "Commander, I've analyzed their proposed solutions. The probability of success is, generously speaking, laughable." "Define laughable," Marcus whispered. 19 decimal places of 0 followed by a 2, Leto replied. "And that's assuming ideal conditions." The Council began presenting their plans. The Photonic Alliance proposed redirecting the light of 7 supernovas to neutralize the anomaly's energy. The Hivemind Collective suggested linking the consciousness of every sentient being in the galaxy to create a stabilizing psychic field. Leto's voice turned dry. "If I may summarize, they're proposing to fight chaos with chaos. Brilliant." Marcus couldn't help but chuckle, drawing a sharp look from the Centaurian ambassador, a serpentine creature whose scales shimmered with disapproval. "Is something amusing, Commander?" the ambassador hissed. "Just the irony," Marcus replied. "You're all so advanced, but you're making the same mistake every beginner makes, overcomplicating the problem." The ambassador's scales darkened. "And I suppose the primitives from Earth have a better idea?" "Not yet," Marcus admitted, his grin unfazed. "But give me a minute. Simplicity's kind of our thing." As the chamber erupted into debate, Marcus observed the hologram of the anomaly. It pulsed and shifted, its chaotic energy growing with every second. To the other delegates, it was an incomprehensible threat. To Marcus, it felt oddly familiar. "Leto," Marcus said quietly. "What if the anomaly isn't just a random occurrence? What if it's reacting to something?" "Analyzing," Leto replied. "Preliminary data suggests you may be correct. The anomaly's growth patterns align with external attempts to stabilize it. Commander, it's possible their solutions are feeding it." Marcus leaned forward, his mind racing. "They're trying to impose order on chaos, and chaos is fighting back. Leto, I think this thing doesn't need more complexity. It needs something it can understand." The AI's tone turned thoughtful. "A simple solution for a complex problem. How human." Marcus smiled grimly. "Let's see how the galaxy's finest feel about that idea." Marcus leaned back in his chair, watching the Galactic Council devolve into what could generously be described as a multi-species shouting match. The crystalline walls of the chamber refracted their chaotic movements, turning the room into a kaleidoscope of indignation and self-importance. The anomaly's hologram loomed overhead, pulsating like an unhealed wound in the fabric of the universe. "Order! I demand order!" The High Chancellor's shimmering form flashed in distress, their refracted light dimming as they struggled to regain control. Marcus leaned closer to his earpiece. "Leto, tell me you're recording this. The comedy value alone is priceless." "Always, Commander," Leto replied, its synthetic voice laced with amusement. "Though I must caution, my probability analysis suggests this debate will resolve nothing," Marcus smirked. "You don't say." At the center of the chamber, a tall, serpentine alien from the Centaurian delegation coiled their shimmering form, their chromatophores flickering in frustration. The anomaly grows more unstable with each moment of inaction. The Photonic Alliance's solution is clearly superior. Redirecting supernova energy will neutralize the threat. Across the room, a nebulous creature from the Hive Mind Collective pulsed with magenta annoyance. Typical Centaurian arrogance, linking sentient consciousnesses is the only way to stabilize quantum chaos. Your light show theatrics are doomed to fail. "Your proposal," a robotic voice cut in, emanating from the Mechanical Consensus delegation, has a 99.99998% likelihood of amplifying the anomaly. Statistical models confirm our plan. Quantum synchronization through multidimensional harmonic oscillation is optimal. Marcus watched this circus with a growing sense of disbelief. Each faction was so convinced of their superiority that they couldn't see the obvious. "They're not solving anything," he muttered to Leto. "They're just trying to outdo each other." "Correct," Leto replied. "Their inability to recognize the simplest solution is consistent with their advanced but overly rigid methodologies. Would you like me to simulate outcomes for entertainment purposes?" "No need," Marcus said. "I'm watching it in real time." The holographic anomaly pulsed again, larger now, its chaotic energy visibly disrupting the chamber's air. The room fell momentarily silent as a shimmering ripple passed through the council members, forcing them to acknowledge the imminent danger. The High Chancellor's light flared anxiously. "We require immediate consensus. Delegates, your divisions will doom us all." Marcus rose from his seat, cutting through the tension. "Consensus? Good luck with that. You've been at this for hours, and all you've done is make things worse." Every alien in the room turned toward him. The Centaurian ambassador's chromatophores darkened with disdain. "The human speaks again. I suppose you have another primitive observation to share?" Marcus didn't miss a beat. "Yeah, I do. You're also busy trying to outsmart this anomaly that you've forgotten the basics. You're throwing complexity at something that thrives on it. Of course it's getting worse." A gaseous delegate from the Nebulon Alliance swirled toward him, their voice in eerie resonance. "And what does the child species propose? Shall we wave sticks at the anomaly until it behaves?" "Not sticks," Marcus replied coolly, "but maybe stop treating it like a math problem and start treating it like a tantrum. Ever try telling a tantrum to stop?" The room erupted in murmurs, disbelief rippling through the chamber like a physical force. Leto chimed in softly. "Commander, their responses suggest incredulity bordering on disdain. Shall I begin drafting your official apology?" "Not yet," Marcus whispered. "Let me enjoy the fireworks first." Before anyone could respond, the chamber dimmed. A low hum filled the air, reverberating through the crystalline walls. Marcus froze as the light shifted, bending and warping around a single point at the room's edge. Slowly, impossibly, a figure materialized. A void walker. The room fell silent. Even the most arrogant delegates leaned back in awe. Void walkers were ancient beings, older than the Council itself and rarely seen outside their mysterious dimensional realms. This one was tall and indistinct, its form shimmering as if it existed in multiple realities at once. The Void Walker's voice, when it came, was like a ripple through the soul. "You overthink," it said simply. The Council exchanged nervous glances. The High Chancellor spoke first, their crystalline body trembling. "Great Observer, your wisdom is welcome. Please guide us." The Voidwalker turned its shifting gaze to Marcus, ignoring the rest of the chamber. "The human sees what the Elder Minds do not." Marcus blinked. "Me? Pretty sure I'm just here to annoy everyone. The Void Walker's form rippled, the closest approximation to laughter Marcus had ever seen from such a being. Simplicity, it said, is often mistaken for ignorance. Yet it is the foundation of all truths. The Centaurian ambassador bristled. Simplicity cannot solve a problem of such magnitude. The anomaly is a quantum phenomenon, a paradox that defies reason. Only the most advanced calculations have failed, the Void Walker interrupted, its tone cutting through the ambassador's protest like a blade. Each attempt you make strengthens the anomaly. Complexity feeds it. Chaos begets chaos. Marcus stepped forward, emboldened by the Void Walker's words. Exactly. You're trying to solve this thing on its terms, and it's eating you alive. Maybe it's time to stop overcomplicating things. The High Chancellor hesitated, their form flickering with uncertainty. And what do you suggest, Commander Blackwood? Marcus glanced at Leto, who displayed a schematic of the anomaly on his datapad. We simplify. Forget the fancy tech, the multidimensional equations, the psychic linkups. We send one clear, basic message and see what happens. The mechanical consensus delegate emitted a series of disapproving clicks. A message is an untested variable. Its success is statistically improbable. Improbable isn't impossible, Marcus shot back. And let's face it, nothing you've done has worked. What's the harm in trying? The Void Walker inclined its head. The child remembers what the elders have forgotten. The universe often whispers, yet you shout over it. The council broke into heated debate, arguing the merits of Marcus's idea. Some dismissed it as primitive folly. Others, desperate for any solution, reluctantly entertained the possibility. Leto whispered in Marcus's ear, Commander, I estimate a 23% chance they'll allow you to proceed. Shall I calculate alternate strategies? No need, Marcus replied, his confidence growing. They'll come around. They always do when they're out of options. Sure enough, after several more minutes of bickering, the High Chancellor finally spoke. Very well. The Council will permit the human to attempt their unconventional method. But be warned, Commander, failure will not reflect kindly on your species. Marcus grinned, his mind already racing with ideas. Failure's not in my vocabulary. Leto, prep the simplest transmission you can think of. We're about to show them how it's done. The Void Walker lingered as the Council began preparations. It turned to Marcus, its voice a soft echo. You carry the weight of simplicity. Do not falter, for the fate of existence now rests on a single thread. Marcus met its gaze, feeling the enormity of the moment settle on his shoulders. No pressure then. The Void Walker's form shimmered once more before fading into the dimensional ether, leaving Marcus alone with his thoughts, his AI, and the faintest glimmer of hope. The chamber's crystalline walls seemed to pulse with tension as Marcus strode back to his seat. The Council's approval for his plan felt like a hollow victory. Delegates whispered among themselves, their voices laced with skepticism. The holographic projection of the anomaly loomed larger, its chaotic edges reaching for the borders of the Proxima Centaur system. Leto, Marcus said under his breath, give me the current numbers. The AI's voice responded with its usual dry efficiency. The anomaly's expansion rate has increased by 14% in the last hour. Proxima Centaur will collapse in 46 minutes, unless the cascade is interrupted. Marcus rubbed his temples. Fantastic. No pressure at all. The High Chancellor's shimmering form flickered. Commander Blackwood, we are prepared to relay your transmission. Proceed with haste, or this council will take alternative measures. Alternative measures, Marcus muttered to himself. Yeah, because that's worked so well so far. Ignoring the glares from the other delegates, he leaned over his console, his fingers dancing across the controls. The basic pulse transmission system Leto had designed was crude by the Council standards. No encryption, no quantum layering, no interdimensional oscillation. It was essentially a carrier wave with a single, unmistakable message. Are you sure this will work? Calder whispered, one of the few humans in the chamber. His expression was a mix of doubt and hope, the same look Marcus had seen on soldiers before an impossible mission. Nope, Marcus replied, grinning despite himself. But at least it won't make things worse. The Void Walker, standing silently in the corner, tilted its head, its form shimmering like a heat mirage. The child's simplicity carries weight. Do not falter. Marcus nodded, steeling himself. Leto, ready the channel. Channel open, Commander, Leto confirmed. Transmission is live. Taking a deep breath, Marcus stared at the swirling chaos of the anomaly. He wasn't a physicist or an engineer. He was a soldier, and in moments like this, his instincts told him to keep it simple. He leaned into the microphone and said one word. No. The word echoed through the chamber, transmitted on a single frequency carrier wave that rippled outward into the void. Every holographic display flickered as the message pierced the anomaly's chaotic heart. For a moment, nothing happened. The anomaly continued to churn, its edges writhing like a wounded animal. The council erupted in murmurs. The Centaurian ambassador scoffed, their chromatophores flickering in disbelief. That's it? That's the grand human solution? A single syllable? Before Marcus could respond, the anomaly shuddered. The writhing chaos slowed, its jagged edges retreating ever so slightly. The chamber fell silent as everyone stared at the hologram. Leto, Marcus whispered, what's happening? The anomaly is responding, Leto replied, its synthetic voice tinged with awe. Its expansion rate has slowed by 27%. Probability matrices are stabilizing. The Void Walker stepped forward, its presence commanding the attention of the entire chamber. The universe listens to simplicity. It rejects chaos born of overthought and arrogance. The child has spoken truth. The Centaurian ambassador's voice dripped with skepticism. This is a coincidence, a temporary fluctuation. It proves nothing. Does it? Marcus shot back, gesturing to the anomaly. Look at the data. Your complex solutions only made it stronger. One word did more than all your quantum nonsense combined. The ambassador recoiled, but before they could respond, the anomaly pulsed violently. The entire chamber shook as a surge of energy lashed out, disrupting the hologram and plunging the room into semi-darkness. Leto, Marcus shouted. Anomaly reasserting itself. Leto reported. It's adapting, resisting the simplicity. Commander, additional input may be required. Marcus's mind raced. If one word had made a difference, perhaps persistence was the key. He leaned into the microphone again. No, he repeated, his voice steady. The anomaly shuddered again, its chaotic energy faltering. Marcus spoke the word a third time, louder, with more conviction. No. Each repetition sent ripples through the anomaly, its edges fracturing as if it couldn't reconcile the simplicity of the command. The council watched in stunned silence, their disdain giving way to a growing sense of awe. Commander, Leto said, anomaly stability is increasing. Expansion has halted. Probability fields are realigning. The Void Walker stepped closer, its form flickering with what Marcus could only interpret as approval. The child has taught the elders. Simplicity brings balance where complexity fails. Marcus turned to the council, his frustration boiling over. Do you see now? This isn't about who has the fanciest tech or the most advanced equations. Sometimes you just need to cut through the noise and give a clear command. The High Chancellor's light dimmed, a sign of contemplation. Your methods are unconventional, Commander, yet the results speak for themselves. As the anomaly continued to stabilize, Marcus felt a surge of relief. The swirling chaos began to contract, its edges smoothing into something almost serene. The galaxy might just survive after all, but the calm didn't last. Commander, Leto said urgently, new anomaly detected. It's splitting, creating secondary rifts. They're smaller, but multiplying rapidly. Marcus's stomach dropped. How many? Dozens, Leto replied. If they aren't neutralized, the cascade will resume. The Centaurian ambassador sneered. Your simple solution has only delayed the inevitable. Perhaps now you'll leave this to the real experts. Marcus ignored them, his mind racing. He couldn't repeat the same tactic indefinitely. The anomaly was adapting, learning from each command. Leto, he said, Is there a way to amplify the signal? Make it stronger, more consistent? The AI paused. There is one possibility. If we interface directly with the anomaly's core frequency, we could establish a feedback loop. However, this would require unprecedented synchronization and significant risk to your neural integrity. Define significant, Marcus said, already knowing he wouldn't like the answer. Your mind could be overwhelmed by the anomaly's chaotic patterns, Leto said bluntly. Worst-case scenario, permanent neural disintegration. Great, Marcus muttered. Let's do it. The council erupted in protest. You cannot! The Nebulon delegate cried, their gaseous forms swirling in agitation. No being can withstand such a connection. Watch me, Marcus said, his voice steady. The Voidwalker approached, placing a shimmering hand on his shoulder. Courage born of simplicity. Proceed, child, and remember, the universe listens when words are spoken with intent. Marcus sat down, Leto's interface glowing in front of him. As the connection initialized, he felt a jolt of electricity course through his body. The anomaly's chaos surged into his mind, a storm of incomprehensible colors and sounds. Through the noise, Marcus focused on one thought. He repeated the word again, not just with his voice, but with every fiber of his being. No. The storm resisted, pushing back with relentless force. But Marcus didn't falter. He repeated the command over and over, his determination unwavering. The anomaly began to shrink, its chaotic energy unraveling like a thread pulled from a tapestry. The secondary rifts collapsed one by one, their energy dissolving into the void. Stability achieved, Leto announced, its voice filled with quiet amazement. The cascade has been neutralized. Marcus slumped in his chair, exhaustion washing over him. The chamber was silent, every delegate staring at him in stunned disbelief. The Voidwalker bowed slightly. The child has reminded us of what we have forgotten. Simplicity is the greatest strength. Marcus managed a weak smile. Glad I could help. The silence in the Galactic Council chamber was as vast and oppressive as the anomaly itself. Every delegate, from the shimmering Centaurian ambassador to the nebulous forms of the Hive Mind Collective, stared at Marcus Blackwood. His chest heaved as he leaned back in his chair, the neural interface still sparking faintly from the monumental effort of stabilizing the anomaly. Leto's calm voice filled the chamber, breaking the tension. Commander, the primary anomaly has been contained. Probability matrices across the affected systems are stabilizing. However, Marcus forced his eyes open, his head still pounding from the psychic strain. However what? The anomaly's residual energy remains unstable, Leto replied. Localized distortions are still forming. They're minor, but without intervention, they could reignite the cascade. Marcus let out a bitter laugh, sitting upright. Of course they could. Nothing's ever easy, is it? The Centaurian ambassador's chromatophores rippled with disdain. You see? The humans' crude methods were a temporary fix at best. We must deploy advanced quantum realignment protocols immediately. Before Marcus could reply, the Voidwalker's shimmering form stepped forward, its presence commanding an unnatural stillness. The child's actions have brought balance, yet balance is fragile. The elders must learn what the child has shown. The ambassador recoiled, their voice dripping with scorn. Learn? From this primitive species? Preposterous? Preposterous, Marcus said, his tone sharper than steel, is what you've been doing for hours, complicating the problem while the galaxy burns. Maybe it's time you listened instead of talking. The ambassador bristled, but before they could retort, the High Chancellor raised a glowing appendage. Enough. Commander Blackwood's methods, unconventional as they may be, have achieved what we could not. Let us hear what he has to say. Marcus stood, his legs unsteady but his resolve firm. Look, I know I'm not a scientist or a diplomat. I'm just a guy who knows how to get things done. And right now, the only way to finish this is to trust the same approach that got us here. Simplicity. Directness. The nebulous hive mind representative shifted closer, their swirling form flickering with curiosity. You propose more simplicity? Yet the universe grows increasingly complex. Marcus nodded. Exactly. The more you fight complexity with complexity, the more it spirals out of control. But simplicity, clear, focused action, that's what cuts through the noise. The Void Walkers understand this. It's time the rest of you did too. The Void Walker inclined its head. The child sees the truth. The universe does not respond to what is loudest. It responds to what is clearest. Marcus turned to Leto. What's the best way to neutralize the residual distortions? Leto's holographic form shimmered, its synthetic face unusually solemn. The distortions are fragmented echoes of the primary anomaly. To fully dissipate them, they must be targeted and harmonized individually. This requires a direct neural interface. Again. The room erupted in protests. Delegates shouted over one another, their voices a cacophony of objections. "Impossible!" the Centaurian ambassador hissed. "The human's mind barely survived the first interface." "He will destroy himself," the hive mind added, their tones tinged with alarm. "No biological entity can endure such strain twice." Marcus held up a hand, silencing the room. "I didn't survive the first time just to let everything fall apart now. If this is what it takes, I'll do it." "Commander," Leto interjected, its tone uncharacteristically hesitant, "I must remind you that the cumulative strain of a second interface poses a 78% likelihood of permanent neural damage." 78%'s still less than 100, Marcus said with a weak grin. "I'll take those odds." The High Chancellor's light flickered, a sign of deep contemplation. "Commander Blackwood, should you fail, the consequences could be catastrophic. Are you certain of this course?" Marcus met their gaze, his voice steady. "I didn't come here to watch the galaxy fall apart while we argued about it. Let's finish this." The Void Walker stepped closer, placing a shimmering hand on Marcus's shoulder. "The child walks a dangerous path, but danger is often the cradle of growth. Proceed, and let simplicity guide you." As the Council reluctantly granted their approval, Marcus returned to his chair. Leto's interface glowed, the neural connection waiting for him. "You ready for this, buddy?" Marcus asked, his voice lighter than he felt. "I am always ready, Commander," Leto replied. "It is you I worry about." "Thanks for the vote of confidence," Marcus said, sliding the interface over his head. The moment the connection activated, Marcus felt the familiar jolt of chaotic energy flooding his mind. But this time, he was prepared. The distortions were smaller, less overwhelming than the primary anomaly, but their fragmented nature made them unpredictable. "Focus!" Leto's voice cut through the noise. "Target the distortions one at a time. Begin with the largest." Marcus zeroed in on the first distortion, a swirling knot of energy that pulsed erratically. He imagined it shrinking, its chaos dissipating. "No," he said firmly. The distortion hesitated, its erratic movement slowing. "No," he repeated, channeling every ounce of his will. The distortion collapsed, its energy fading into the void. "First target neutralized," Leto reported. "Remaining distortions, 11. Marcus exhaled, sweat dripping down his face. "One down. Let's keep going." The process repeated, each distortion resisting at first, but ultimately yielding to Marcus's stubborn determination. With every success, the Council watched in stunned silence, their disbelief slowly giving way to admiration. "Commander," Leto said as Marcus targeted the final distortion, "you're nearing your neural threshold. If you push any further—" "I know," Marcus interrupted, his voice strained but resolute. "We're finishing this." The last distortion pulsed violently, its chaotic energy lashing out like a cornered animal. Marcus focused, his mind sharp despite the mounting strain. "No," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. The distortion wavered. "No," he repeated, louder this time. With one final surge of will, Marcus forced the distortion to collapse. The chamber's holographic displays blinked as the residual energy dissipated, the anomaly's remnants vanishing into the ether. "Distortions neutralized," Leto announced. "Quantum stability restored across all affected systems." The chamber erupted into a stunned silence, every delegate struggling to process what had just happened. The Void Walker stepped forward, its form solid and luminous. The child has not only saved the galaxy, but reminded us of a truth long forgotten. The simplest answers often hold the greatest power. Marcus removed the neural interface, his hands trembling. He looked around the room, meeting the eyes, or equivalent sensory organs, of every delegate. "You see," he said, his voice hoarse but steady. "Sometimes all it takes is one word, one simple action. You don't need a million equations or an army of machines. You just need to cut through the noise." The High Chancellor bowed their head, their light glowing softly. "Commander Blackwood, humanity has proven itself worthy of not just respect, but admiration. You have saved us all." The Centaurian ambassador, though visibly begrudging, inclined their head. "Perhaps there is wisdom in simplicity, after all." Marcus managed a faint grin. "Told you so." The chamber's lights brightened, a subtle sign of celebration. The galaxy had been saved, not by advanced technology or complex theories, but by one man's determination and the power of simplicity. Marcus leaned back in his chair, his body feeling like a leaden weight after the ordeal. The neural interface's residue still buzzed faintly in his mind, a reminder of how close he had come to his breaking point. Around him, the Galactic Council chamber was awash in a stunned, almost reverent silence. For once, no one dared argue or scoff at the primitive human who had just saved the galaxy. Leto's holographic avatar flickered to life beside him, its expression unusually subdued. "Commander, all distortions have been neutralized. Quantum stability across affected systems is holding at nominal levels. The anomaly has been eradicated." "Good to hear," Marcus muttered, rubbing his temples. "Any chance you can do something about this splitting headache while you're at it?" "Unfortunately, Commander, I am an artificial intelligence, not a physician." "May I suggest hydration?" Marcus chuckled weakly. "Thanks, Doc. Real helpful." The High Chancellor's crystalline form stepped forward, its radiant light dimmed in what Marcus interpreted as humility. "Commander Blackwood, your actions today have not only saved countless lives, but have reminded us all of the value of simplicity and resolve. On behalf of the Galactic Council, we extend our deepest gratitude." Marcus forced himself to sit up straighter, his trademark smirk returning. "I'll take a thank you over an "I told you so" any day." The Centaurian ambassador, their chromatophores still rippling with reluctance, stepped closer. "It appears, Commander, that we underestimated your species. I admit, grudgingly, that your methods, while unorthodox, have proven effective." Marcus arched an eyebrow. "Was that a compliment?" Somebody marked the calendar. The ambassador bristled, their form darkening in irritation. "Do not push your luck, human." Before Marcus could respond, the Void Walker moved forward, its shimmering presence commanding attention, its voice, a resonance that seemed to bypass the ears and speak directly to the soul, filled the chamber. "The child has reminded us of what we, in our wisdom, had forgotten. The universe is not a machine to be calculated, nor a puzzle to be solved with complexity. It is a living, breathing entity, one that responds to clarity, intent, and simplicity." The Void Walker turned to Marcus, its form becoming more defined, almost tangible. "You have saved more than systems, child. You have saved understanding itself. The universe thanks you." Marcus blinked. "You're welcome, I guess." The Void Walker inclined its head, the gesture carrying the weight of countless millennia. "You will find, Commander, that the universe has its own way of rewarding those who listen to its whispers." With that, the Void Walker stepped back, its form rippling as though dissolving into another plane of existence. Marcus watched it go, the weight of its words settling over him. The High Chancellor raised an appendage, signaling the Council to reconvene. "This session of the Galactic Council is hereby resumed. Let it be recorded in the annals of history that today, humanity has proven itself not only a member of this Council, but an invaluable ally in the preservation of existence itself." A ripple of agreement swept through the chamber, murmurs of approval echoing among the delegates. Even the Centaurian ambassador gave a reluctant nod. Leto's voice whispered in Marcus's ear, "Commander, you appear to have achieved what many considered impossible: universal respect." "Yeah," Marcus replied, his tone wry. but it's exhausting being this impressive. Think they'll let me take a nap now? As the council deliberated over the official commendations and protocols to prevent future anomalies, Marcus leaned back in his chair, letting the voices fade into the background. His body ached. His mind felt like a scrambled mess. But for the first time in hours, he allowed himself to feel the relief of victory. "Commander," Leto said softly, the Void Walker's final words were intriguing. "Do you believe the universe truly rewards those who listen?" Marcus stared at the holographic displays now showing the stabilized quantum fields of the Proxima Centaur system. "I don't know, Leto, but if it does, I hope its idea of a reward includes a steak dinner and about 12 hours of sleep." Before Leto could reply, the High Chancellor addressed him directly. "Commander Blackwood, the Council has decided to formally induct humanity as a founding member of the Quantum Stability Task Force. Your species will lead the initiative to ensure no such anomaly ever threatens the galaxy again." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "Lead it? You sure about that? I'm just a guy who said no a bunch of times." "That is precisely why," the Chancellor said, their crystalline form glinting with conviction. "Your simplicity succeeded where our complexity failed. The galaxy needs that balance." Marcus sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Guess I don't get to retire after all. Fine, I'm in." The Council erupted in a chorus of approval, their voices unified for the first time in what felt like eons. Humanity, once dismissed as primitive and insignificant, had earned its place among the stars, not through technology or might, but through sheer stubborn ingenuity. As the session adjourned, Marcus stood, his body protesting every movement. He turned to Leto, his grin returning despite his exhaustion. "Well, partner, looks like we're sticking around. Think the galaxy's ready for more human brilliance?" Leto's avatar flickered, its expression uncharacteristically smug. "If today is any indication, Commander, I believe the galaxy has much to learn from us." Marcus chuckled. "Damn right it does. Let's go see what else needs fixing." As he left the chamber, the faint hum of the Void Walker's presence lingered in his mind, a reminder that the universe, vast and unknowable, had chosen to listen to a single human word. And perhaps, just perhaps, it would listen again when the time came. For now, though, Marcus was content to bask in the glow of victory, knowing that simplicity, clarity, and the stubborn determination of humanity had reshaped the fate of the universe forever.